Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. You're watching Views on News. I'm your host, Umar Khalid Butt. And as you know, that the Prime Minister Imran Khan has given a certain standard operating procedures that everyone needs to follow in this day and age in Pakistan, especially in the wake of the coronavirus pandemic that is slowly and steadily, of course, creeping in different parts of the country. We need to be very careful. Of course, the different measures are there that have been put in place by the different governments, whether it be the federal or the provincial, as has been told by our Prime Minister and the different spokespersons that talk now and then. But the issue is the main thing that we need to do, the main thing that the Prime Minister has also told us time and again, is that we as citizens of Pakistan also need to be very responsible, very careful in implementing these standard operating procedures, whether it be keeping a social distance or putting on masks whenever you are in crowded areas. Of course, there have been certain relaxations that have been given by the government, but these relaxations come at a certain price, and the price is that you need to be careful, you need to be responsible citizens, and that is the whole essence of what the government wants its people to become. At last, we need to be on our feet and understand the repercussions of if we are not socially responsible people, how we can also affect or transmit, even if we do not get the disease, be carriers of those. To talk about the SOPs, to talk about what the Prime Minister has said, the decisions that have been taken in the National Coordination Committee by the Prime Minister along with his different aides, we've been joined by Rauf Hassan. Rauf Hassan is a senior analyst. Rauf Sahab, thank you very much to have joined us.
Thank you very much.
Rauf Sahab, the only thing that I take from the different addresses of our Prime Minister or the spokespersons, whether it be Dr. Zafar Mirza or the other different spokesperson also of the government of Punjab, is that we, the onus of responsibility is also on us. A major onus of responsibility is on us, and we need to be very careful. Are we really careful in this day and age? What's your take on that?
Well, thank you for inviting me. Very kind of you. But
and as you are very candid with your remarks.
We have been discussing this particular aspect for a number of weeks now, and my contention has always been that I suppose we are not acting as responsible citizens of this country. And the Prime Minister was very candid about it. He said it's your responsibility just as much as the government's responsibility. When even today, yesterday, for example, I visited two leading stores, chemist shops, and they also sell cosmetics, and I just wanted to see whether they are now observing the SOPs or not. And I went there. People on both sides of the divide, the ones who were running the shop as well as the customers, they were not observing it. So it was yesterday.
But this is what brings me to that little point. Why is it that when the government is telling you again and again and again to follow these SOPs? Before we come to you, we've been joined by Dr. Rana Jawad Asghar. He is an infectious diseases expert. Dr. Saab, thank you very much to have joined us. Dr. Saab, in this day and age, when the whole world understands and knows what the COVID is, we've been told at numerous occasions, at numerous intervals by numerous people from the top, that is our Prime Minister, from all the different spokespersons and the ministers of health and otherwise. Why are we not that socially responsible despite all the warnings that have been given?
Thank you very much. I don't think I could blame just our public. To manage any pandemic or outbreak, one of the major components of its management is that a country should has a very clear risk communication strategy. And number two, which is very important thing, is that the country leadership should be seen united, and there should not be a difference of opinion on how to manage an outbreak. Unfortunately, in Pakistan, we have seen this since the start of the outbreak, that different political leaders have a different point of view on how best to manage this outbreak. That has created confusion among public, which happens all the time. So, and I think that's why it's still very important that our national leadership should sit in one table and make a unified message to the public. And on top of it, now it's a time of social media. So our leadership seems divided on strategies, and then there is the whole floodgate on our social media on different pseudo-intellectuals, pseudo-professionals who are giving different advices. So I will not blame completely or 100% to our public who is confused and not following any strategy.
Kindly stay on line with us, Dr. Rana. I'm going to ask the same question. Rauf Hassan Saab, Dr. Saab says that we are divided. There are a plethora of opinions as far as this pandemic is concerned. Why is that? I mean, it's a pandemic. We know what the symptoms are. We know how the disease is transmitted. Why are there different opinions on that?
See, because unfortunately, you know, all of us feel that we're experts in all fields in the world, and we don't need any expert input to handle any crisis, including a pandemic. I mean, look at Pakistan's media today. Anybody and everybody who comes is speaking like an expert, you know, as if he knows more than the expertise in the specific area.
Have we become narcissistic? Have we become so narcissistic?
You know, take social media, you know, read the newspapers, for example, you know. So, you know, unfortunately in this country, things have happened in a way, you know, that we don't really understand what is it that we should say and what is it that we should restrain ourselves from saying, you know. What is advisable and what is not advisable, because unfortunately the society has been politicized to a point where it has become too divisive.
What about the risk communication strategy, Rauf Hassan Saab, Dr. Saab pointed
I'll come
out?
to that later. But I must say that, you know, I have to reiterate this, you know, that the government has been very clear in what it needed to do from day one. And it has been communicating the message, you know, to the people also. As a matter of fact, you know, virtually these things are discussed, you know, at special meetings called, you know, as well as in every cabinet meeting also. Unfortunately, because of the political division, particularly with regard to one province, you know, who wanted to run their own, sort of do their own battle. And that is what has created the division. And, you know, they felt, you know, that, you know, this was their opportunity to exploit, you know, to take the lead. Because, unfortunately, because of their performance in that province, you know, they were kind of on the back foot. So they tried to do it, they have not been able to do it.
But in the other provinces,
I feel that
what about in the other provinces? Why are the cases also increasing in the other provinces, despite the SOPs having been, I mean, told specifically as a matter of fact, at different intervals of time?
So if you go over the communiques, you know, that came out of the government of Pakistan, they were constantly projecting, you know, that 15th of May to 15th of June is when we are going to hit the top.
Exactly.
It's going to go up. So we're just going according to those.
And now we're seeing till the end of July. This is what
you know, I think they were absolutely right. It is just that we didn't want to believe the government, number one. Number two, they were also very clear about the fact that alongside what the initiative that the government was to take and was taking, it was important that people should observe the SOPs, and that is what I would like to concentrate on. I feel that, you know, we have not been able to shoulder our responsibility.
Okay.
And, you know, that is where I think, you know, that has been one of the major failings, you know, in the entire strategy. Now, how to force people to do it, there's no way. But one other element that I would like to discuss it here, you know, there's so much of fatalism in the society, particularly the fatalism which is projected by these merchants of religion, you know. When you watch them, so many of them are on social media, you know, there's a plethora of them coming on social media. They're saying, well, it's all in the hands of God, you know, and that, you know, we shall go when we have to go, and that nobody can do anything about it. And that it's a hoax, that it's not a reality.
Exactly, that is a major thing that we are seeing on different
social
platforms.
media is talking about. So I think it's important, and when the government talks about regulating the media or social media and media, you know, people, you know, start protesting, you know, that it's an infringement of their right to information and the right to speak. So, you know, you have to, over a period of time, go towards regulating. That's very important. And by the way, this is now being done throughout the world. Pakistan is not an exception.
Exactly.
To it. Yeah.
All right, Dr. Saab, do we have some lacunas as far as regulation is concerned? That is what Rauf Hassan Saab has pointed out, that we lack some regulatory measures.
Stop disinformation.
So, of course, disinformation is another aspect of that. But what do you feel about the first point that I've just mentioned, sir?
So I'm one of the few people whose area of specialization is pandemic preparedness, and for the last 15 years, I'm teaching public health professionals across the world, including Pakistan, how best to prepare a pandemic or respond to an outbreak, and what things they need to do and what they should not be doing. And the one thing is that when an outbreak is happening, you cannot, you know, no laws and regulation will stop the rumor mill. And if you put a lot of pressure on ensuring that the information you share is validated so much and it's from the government side, there is no way you can stop the rumor mill. So what we advise and teach the public health professionals is that share whatever your news is, but you need to be credible and you need to be the first one to share that news. But I'm coming back to the risk communication strategy, which I think is lacking across the Pakistan at this moment. And in our country context, many people think that risk communication or strategy or is at par with the publicity or of the government's actions which they are doing, or one-way messages like SOPs that the communities should follow these. This is not the risk communication. Risk communication is considered now one of the critical component of any pandemic response. And what that requires is that you sit down with the community, come up with a mutual agreement on the SOPs, and then, because only then there is an ownership of that community to follow that SOPs. One-way imposition of any SOPs, no matter they're good or bad, because they lack ownership, are not followed. So, and the other thing is, this has to be done at local levels. This cannot be done just from the Islamabad level.
I'll cut you short here, because you talk of risk communication strategy. At the same time, you say that the government needs to sit down with the affluent people of a certain community so that the information can be dispersed. But the issue here is also that there are people who are affluent in the society, in the community, who say that this is a hoax, that this is not true, that this disease does not exist. It is just some kind of a rumor mill. How can we also work against that, sir?
So the part of risk communication is that you address all the rumors. You don't ignore them. You have to answer them, and you have to, you talk about it. You cannot just push it under the carpet. So if someone raises some issue, your public health professional need to stand up and tell people or the community why that information is not correct.
Addressing this. Doing it? This is what I'm trying to understand, because I see a lot of doctors that I know who are doing that, who are telling them to their patients. But despite that, why are there lacunas present?
Sorry, I missed your last part.
I said, why are there still issues in the society as far as understanding the effect of the disease and the disease itself is concerned, when I said I know personally many doctors who are working with their patients and the community to tell them to address these issues to them? Why are there still these so-called question marks in the society?
So the one thing you need to, focus on, this is a public health event of, a century. So a professional physician or a clinician working with his patient has the limited, limited expertise to do the risk communication. What we are talking about is the whole strategy of risk communication at national, provincial, and local levels, where your government officials and the public health officials stand up and go to the communities. I'm not talking about affected community. I'm talking about different group of communities, and go there, sit down with this, because this is a new disease. We are learning about it in these last 3 months. And if you have noticed, our messages have also evolved. So we need to convey this to the general public, why our messages are different now than they were 3 months ago. So this needs a dialogue, and it's never a one-way message imposition.
All right. I'll just stop you there, sir. I'll address the same question to Rauf Saab. Rauf Saab, dialogue. Are we not doing enough? There's the Tiger Force, as the Prime Minister has announced, that he said that we'll be going now to different areas and will be giving the instructions to the public. They will be overseeing as well whether they're following the SOPs or not. What is the government, in your point of view, not done, in essence, in order to disperse these so-called negative adverse effects that the people are promulgating through these hoax messages?
Well, let me be very candid about
Please,
it.
sir,
and I've
go
written
ahead.
on the subject also. I think in a divided society, as woefully divided as Pakistan is, unfortunately, there's no concept of a dialogue. Our dialogue, if 2 or 3 or 4 people sit together to talk about things, and this is at the highest level, highest echelons of the government, and whether it be in the provinces or at the center, within 3, 4, 5 minutes of initiating a conversation, it degenerates into a fight. There's no concept of dialogue, unfortunately, because everybody wants to hold a sentence. Everybody wants to dominate. So it's not a question of giving and taking, listening to you, listening to me, we listening to everybody else.
This is what a dialogue is.
And then coming to a consensus.
Exactly.
With the inclusion of all relevant stakeholders.
And respect of each other's opinion.
And respect for each other. That is not the case, for example. And this is so obvious. When the federal government, Punjab and KP, and to a great extent Balochistan were moving in one direction, it was Sindh basically which wanted to take its own course, its own direction. And that is what divided the community here. And that is why a certain level of confusion was created. Media, unfortunately, plays the devil's game. I'm saying it again very candidly, you know, and you see, you sit in front of the television. I in fact stopped watching it because, you know, there's nothing substantive discussed on television. It is the same kind of routine dialogue, but
the outcome
not dialogue,
that you
which
see
is
not
which is coming.
as positive as
and there's
it
no
should
positive
be.
message, you know, which is being disseminated, you know. So, you know, you sit, you know, just look at the kind of people who sit, you know, at prime time on television, and look at the kind of language they're using, kind of messages they're communicating, and how horribly, you know, they are politicizing the entire environment.
All right, I'll pause you
so
there.
these are very,
yes.
these are substantive issues.
Okay.
We just can't brush them away.
All right.
You know, we live in a society which suffers from these issues.
All right. Messages need to be dissipated in a very candid and an open-minded opinion and an open-minded environment where we should respect each other's beliefs and opinions, but understand what the other person is trying to say. Asma Qadir, MNA from the Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf, joins us. Asma Qadir Sahaba, thank you very much to have joined us. Ma'am, there's a tiger force that is in place. There are all the information that are being disseminated through different channels, through different social media platforms as well. Why is the public still not understanding what are the repercussions of a pandemic such as COVID-19?
All right. Thank you, Umar, for inviting. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, ma'am.
Before I tell you, answer your question, I would like to give my opinion, that which I've been thinking for a very, very long day, the whole day and the last 2 days. You know what Corona has done? Corona has actually caused a paradigm shift in the lives of human beings and us. And human beings, I feel like, are themselves responsible for the catastrophe, right? For example, there's so many examples I'll give you later, but there's another thing that I feel like the media, as the other colleague, I don't know who was speaking before me, but as he was saying, there was no substantial talk being heard through media.
Exactly, no constructive talk, ma'am, that comes to a solution for people.
Okay. So media, what I feel like is this time, the era has changed as paradigm shift has taken. Media, we need the media's help. Media needs to change their reporting strategy, especially for guiding, educating people of our country how to live in such a situation where, you know, we cannot meet each other, cannot see each other. Earning livelihood has become difficult. Visiting hospital has become difficult. There's such a huge population in this time of paradigm shift. We need to even tell them how to live or how to grow food for themselves. You know, as we know, the life is dependent on air, food, water, and energy, right? But water is going to be scarce as well, the way the situation and population is bulging out in our country. But what about the food, which is the crisis we have witnessed, and it's going to be our future? Corona
we have a
is our
locust
future.
infestation as we speak as well.
Excuse me? Sorry.
We have a locust infestation as we speak, ma'am, in
so
Pakistan as well.
the media has to first accept and fit her or himself, media, I'm just personifying, that fit themselves in this paradigm shift respectfully, so the people should follow. You need to be model example for our people of this country, how to handle them or how to fit themselves positively so they can grow in a healthy manner, okay? So they can earn in a healthy manner because everything is going to be, going to be online, right?
True.
The food is going to be bought online, even clothes, whatever. Very simple.
But ma'am, what I'm trying to understand here, if you mind me just asking you this question, this understanding or making people understand the how to lead their lives will take a certain time. But the pandemic is not going to take that long to dissipate amongst the public. What are the measures that the government can take on very quickly so that the general public understands that, and also on different kinds of media, to interrupt or to negate all the hoaxes, all the negative information that is being dissipated as far as COVID-19 is concerned, ma'am?
So okay. So first I will start that, which I'm happy to tell you, which never, I think media hasn't paid attention on that, and even no one, even opposition, because they know it. People, what the government has done, they don't want to say it louder because it's going to will give stars to the government. The one thing which I want to tell you is the very important thing that government has done, and for that, Pakistan is being, Pakistan has amazed the world. How? What they have done, because through National Institute of Health, Islamabad, with Prime Minister, with the orders of Prime Minister, what they did was the virology department in National Institute of Health. What they did was they developed a capacity for detection of real-time reverse transcription. I remember polymerase chain reaction, which is a laboratory technique. It's a laboratory technique combining reverse transcription of RNA and into DNA. RNA, and we know what is DNA. RNA is a main constituent of chromosome in virus, whereas DNA is a main constituent of chromosome in organisms. So this is the first time Pakistan has achieved. Never in the history this is done, And all right, we know that the government is very much today. The Prime Minister has ordered that to be taken. The doctors, the paramedical staff, their care must be taken at priority, and he has taken a serious notice. But before this, he has also, what you can say, appointed national health. That's his national health. Sorry,
yes.
I forgot. National
Understood, ma'am. Thank you very much to have given us that input on what the government has done as far as tracing what we call the virus behind the pandemic is concerned. Rauf Hassan Saab, ma'am pointed out one thing, of course, that we need to change our livelihoods, our lifestyles, basically, because of the general condition and state we live in. But, a disease such as this COVID-19 is not going to wait for us to kind of evolve ourselves, It's going to just dissipate and just spread like anything unless and until we do what the government is asking us to do. Now, what in your point of view, Rauf Saab, are the measures that we need to apply now and without further ado at different levels, whether it be at the community level, whether it be at the local level, provincial level, federal level?
See, there are a few things. I think it's very important to know that we discuss it in detail. I wish there were local governments at this point in time. I think they were the best. They would have been the best equipped to handle the people at the grassroots level, which unfortunately we don't have in this country at this moment in time. This Tiger Force, I don't know how long will they take to start functioning at the grassroots level as a replacement of the local governments. I don't know whether they can actually become a replacement of the local government. It's going to be very difficult. So they can become, they may assist people, in effort to understand to understand things, but I don't think they can be of much use beyond that. Now, there are a few things that the government can do. Number one, clarity of message. 1, 2, 3, 4. Clarity of message.
But
absolute,
there is a clarity of message.
I think there is still ambiguity because of the political division in the country. There is still a lack. There is still a level of lack of clarity. Then 2, effective communication. Is the message? Are the decisions which the government is taking, are they being communicated to the people at the grassroots level who are living in every nook and corner in all parts of this country, in all provinces of this country, in all villages of this country, all towns, all cities of this country? So that effective policy of communication, I think it principally is the responsibility of the provincial government. So, no, but I think you can do a lot more. In terms of further clarifying the message as a means of communication.
When you talk of further clarifying, Rauf Saab, communication, communication is the main tool through which people get to know information. Now, there is television, there is radio, there is the social media, there are newspapers, and the government is doing through these. What more means of communication?
I was coming to that. Basically, you see, in the world of communication, it's a vast world, and there's so much that you can do. Basically, you see, maybe television is not effective because prime-time television reaches only about 50-55% of the people in this country. PTV does, but there is very little that people watch. Let me tell you, I mean, just one thing that comes to mind. There is something called mobile vans. These mobile vans which carry a message to the doorstep of the people. right? It's not on television, it's not on radio, it's not through the newspapers, because these are communication media, but they have limited sort of acceptability, readership, or whatever, viewership, or whatever. So mobile vans, if we have in the hundreds, we have these mobile vans, and they carry the message to the doorstep of every people. Again, I wish there were local governments here, and they possibly would have been the best people to handle this. But in their absence, I think the provincial government, has to, district administration has to handle it. So that is one thing. Fourth, instead of using the traditional media, it's important, for example, that every like we have these leaflets printed, and you should paste them all over the country, and they should have the message in absolute clarity, as bullet points, 1, 2, 3, 4. The important thing is not you and I. The important thing is not people living in the city. The important thing is people living in areas which are remote and not accessible by the traditional media. You have to reach them. You must reach them, and they are the ones basically you have to invest in, both in terms of money, effort, and time. And unless they understand it, we will not be able to really sort of combat this. But one more thing I would say, that said, I must also raise my fingers at the residents of the cities in this country. Like, for example, in my city where I live, Islamabad, this is possibly the most educated city in Pakistan. And look at the conduct of people. I'm not overstressing it. I'm in fact understressing it. I mean, I feel that this has to be regulated. I think the district administration in Islamabad should constitute squads, which should go from place to place,
but
from shop to shop, from home to home.
The latest decision that has been taken, like the 3,000 rupees of fine that will be put on people who do not put masks.
For example, they have said 3,000 people if you don't wear the mask. Now, I would like to see that people are actually fined. They're challaned and they're fined. The problem is in the loopholes in the enforcement system in this country. Like, for example, if you are caught, I mean, the one, you'll sort of, you'll be able to get away with it, pleading or giving some money or whatever. Enforcement is what has to be ensured. You have to enforce the decisions taken by the government on everyone without any discrimination. So, I have more things. But
we'll go to Dr. Saab, who's of course listening to our conversation very ably and of course understanding as well. Dr. Saab, when we talk about the loopholes in the enforcement system, how much do you see that in the medical system as well? Because you of course encounter that on a daily basis. Do you feel that the message, what you disseminate amongst, for example, your patients or other doctors, is properly distributed, is properly disseminated further amongst the general public, or do you feel more needs to be done? Do you feel that we are lacking in certain quarters as far as the dissemination of communication is concerned concerning COVID-19?
So the one fact which is very ground reality, is that our cases have increased irrespective of our, and our what we call case positivity rates is also increasing. The more we test, we are finding more proportion of people getting positive. One of my friend just lost his son today, just few hours ago, and another doctor friend who is my class fellow was on a ventilator. So the problem is big. So for me now, it's more important that we control this trajectory of pandemic in Pakistan. And there are, these are not something, we don't have to create a new wheel. The methodology is there, the steps are there, we just need to follow up. What my concern is that every time we talk about risk communication, people think about just communication. Communication, as I said, the difference between risk communication and communication is that the communication is a one-way stream of messages, while risk communication is sitting up with the affected community and coming up with solutions at a local level. It cannot be done at national level, but you need to bring in people who are expert in risk communication.
But so that might take a lot of time, and our disease will not take that long to kind of distribute amongst the public.
We have to focus on what we have.
Should we focus on what we have, as Dr. Saab also says?
So how we could, so for me as a global health, as a public health expert who has worked in pandemics and outbreaks, most important thing is that we control those numbers sooner than later, because it's becoming at a very high rate.
The numbers are increasing by every day. I mean, you see the newspapers, you see even the app that has been made by the government, the COVID-19 app. You see the numbers that are increasing per day, and you must know that firsthand because you're working with all the patients.
So what we could do is how could we control the situation? We need to, that's the government's own declared policy, which is trace, test, and quarantine. That means once you find a case, you identify its contacts and then you test them. That means you have to increase the capacity of testing from the currently what we are doing on average. The month was 12,000 per day on average, to increase it to 30,000, which the government has already made its target. So once we have done this, and we're going to have a bunch of new number of cases, a big bunch of new number of cases, but that should be okay, because then all of those positive people could be isolated in their homes or in the quarantine centers and could be out of that transmission chain, which at this time is not stopping outside in our community because our testing is so limited.
I would like to ask you this question. You talk about transmission chain. Sir, you talk about transmission chain. I would like to ask you, why are your compatriots, doctors and sons of doctors who know what it is all about, are still getting affected, despite getting informed and understanding what it is all about?
So let's keep the two things different. What I'm presenting you as an epidemiologist and a public health expert, then we are talking about the clinicians who are getting infected. More than 1,700 healthcare professionals were affected in Pakistan until a week ago, and 54% of them are doctors. So why they are being affected? One thing is, our infection control practices in our hospitals were not good to start with. That was the major issue, and that was my fear whenever there was a major pandemic alert. Second, there has been no government level setup to verify the quality of PPE which is available to many people in the market. And if you remember, US and UK returned the consignments from Turkey of PPE and the China from the PPE. So from the government side, there should be some independent body that should be verifying the quality of PPE which is being provided. Third point, which already government has taken care of, is to start the training through the WeCare program, in which they are trying to provide extra training to the doctors who are working in those corona-focused hospitals. So we need to work on all three categories, and we need to try to figure it out, that why they are getting infected. So that's the part of the question which our team should be, from the government side, should be investigating, that why, if they are wearing PPE, if the infection control practices are good as being declared, then why the doctors are dying, are giving their lives.
All right, Rauf Hassan Saab, why? Why is the government not doing enough? Has the government, as he talked about the quality of PPEs, he talked about the 1,700 healthcare professionals who've been affected by the coronavirus all over Pakistan. He talked about the testing capacity. He talked about testing, tracing and quarantine as well, that the government has also announced. What lags? Why even amongst the healthcare professionals do we have so many incidents of the virus spreading despite the care that they themselves take?
First and foremost, it's a combination of many things, number one. Number two, in 72 years of independence, would somebody like to tell me what is the investment that the state made on developing the health sector in this country? And how does it compare with all other sectors, which were far less important? I mean, what is the investment in education?
All right.
And at the onset of this pandemic, where did our health systems stand as compared to the rest of the world? And in spite of the fact that we didn't, compare very, very positively, even in countries, UK, US, Germany, France, Spain, so many other countries,
they have healthcare professionals who've been affected by it.
They have had a similar kind of problems in those countries.
Were they not prepared? Was the world not prepared?
Nobody was prepared. Nobody was prepared. Nobody was prepared. For example, in the US, President Trump is accused of having responded far too late. He did not. He just waited for a month and a half, about 6 weeks, and then he responded. Because they had lost about 100,000 people there. We're very fortunate.
That,
yeah, that's
sir,
right.
More than that.
I mean, look at UK, for example. They've lost more than 30,000 people. Look at Italy, Spain, Turkey, Iran, so many other countries. India now coming up.
Even
so
now the African
first of all, singling Pakistan out for things that it did not do, not because it didn't want to do, but either it did not have the capacity to do it, or it was not really prepared to do it. Frankly, it is common to virtually all countries where this pandemic has hit. That's number one. Two, about the doctors and health workers, they're doing a great job all over the world. In Pakistan too, we owe so much to them.
We do.
They're the front line of our defense, basically. even in America, even in UK, even in other countries, developed countries, they have suffered, they've lost lives. And a lot of them have lost lives, particularly in UK, for example. They've lost a disproportionate percentage of, frontline workers, doctors and health workers, they've lost their lives. In Pakistan too, I feel that we're still very fortunate. Yet I feel that the level of preparedness, was number one, not there. And number two, as we have discussed in the previous interventions, the unanimity, the homogeneity, the unity among people, who had
lacking.
to fight, that was palpably lacking, and that unfortunately is not there even today. Yes, there's still so many things which need to be done, but NDMA, I understand, is looking into so many things that Dr. Saab has pointed out. They are looking, in fact, into the quality of stuff and all that which is being provided to we're much better off today as compared to 2 months ago. Yes, our hospitals are more prepared today, our workers are more prepared today, our doctors are more prepared today, but I'm not saying that, we've done all. No, there is still so much more to do. And, the more you do, the more you want to do. As a matter of fact, the more margins are created to accomplish. So, it's an ongoing battle, and pandemic is not going anywhere.
In this ongoing battle, Rauf Hassan Saab, there was a smart lockdown in the past that the government had implemented. Now it is kind of easing out on that lockdown, and it is telling people, you need to follow the standard operating procedures. And of course, they have been outlined time and time again on different fora, and we've been talking about it in different shows as well. You've been talking to Faisal and other anchors as well about this. Now, when people need to be responsible, but they are not being responsible, we see and we fear that the number of cases might increase. In that case, as an analyst, Rauf Saab, what do you feel are the possible measures that need to be taken for the people to understand the effect of a pandemic and what it could do to the society and to the country and to the economy of Pakistan?
See, in a soft lockdown, the SOPs are directly linked with a soft lockdown. Soft lockdown, can be disastrous if SOPs are not observed, which is a risk that we have taken. We have been taking, in fact, in the last couple of weeks. Now, we have already discussed the communication strategy. Dr. Saab has already discussed, so many things that he feels has to, need to be done there. So, in addition to that, I think it's important that at whatever level we can possibly do it. As I said at the beginning of this program, I wish there were local governments at this moment in time. They were would have been the best equipped to handle things at the grassroots level, and that is where the problem is. But in cities like Islamabad, Lahore, Karachi, where there's where the infection rate is growing and even growing even today, and it is likely to keep growing in the next couple of weeks.
Exactly.
So that is what I'm scared of. I think it's very important. Like I said before, I think the enforcement mechanism is absolutely vital to the success of soft lockdown.
And it has been.
If we don't
it has
do that,
become more stringent as
if
well.
we don't do that, I think we are in for a disaster in the next couple of weeks.
All right.
So this is the most important one factor, that we feel, is relevant at this juncture.
All right. Enforcement mechanism, Dr. Rana Jawad Asghar Saab, how much more stringent do the governments need to be in order to control the spread of the COVID-19? My last question to you, sir.
So here I will actually agree with Rauf Saab that if we had a local leadership at lowest level, that could have been lifesaver in these days. We give examples of US and other developed countries, but there are poor countries which have also controlled very well, including Vietnam, which has very poor country, very nicely managed, and it has a long border with China. It has the earliest cases. So there are many other examples where even moderately income countries have managed it well. I think the public, now if someone calls me and I tells them this, you have to take care of yourself. Make sure the next 2 weeks you stay home as much as possible. If you venture out, take care. As much as possible, follow the SOPs. And I think the public should, like Rauf Saab has gone to a shop, and I have started doing this, and if they're not following SOPs, I make a protest there and says, why you guys are not wearing masks. It's not always effective, but at least we should start doing it, at least the educated group which is listening to this program. And I think bit by bit, let's hope, and the government do their TTQ strategy fully, because we still have hope. It's not a hopeless situation. We can still manage this outbreak, but we need to do what we say that we should be doing this.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Rana Jawad Asghar Saab. Thank you very much, Rauf
Pleasure.
Hassan Saab,
Thank
to
you.
be candid as always. And I love the fact that you speak your heart out.
Oh, very
And
kind.
we talk
Very
on,
kind.
in a very candid and in a very open atmosphere. And that is what a discussion should be.
We almost
in fact,
did.
we need to come to a consensus, to a
That's right.
decision that is for the betterment of the society. Ladies and gentlemen, COVID-19 is something that is not going away very soon. COVID-19 is something that is going to dissipate among the public unless and until you don't take the standard operating procedures that the government has time and again been telling you to follow. Wear masks, social distancing, washing your hands with soap as regularly as possible, and take care of those who are aged in your family, 50 years plus, or the children in your family, because they are the most susceptible, also those who have diabetes or other such diseases. In this day and time, the onus of responsibility, of course, comes on us, on myself, on Rauf Hassan Saab, on all the other people, my producer who's also watching and producing this show, the cameramen that are there and also wearing masks for that purpose. I hope I could show them to you as well. But the issue is we need to be more responsible. We need to understand what this pandemic is all about. We need to understand that it dissipates itself until and unless we follow certain rules and regulations. Enforcement mechanism is important. We need to enforce it on ourselves first and on the people around them. That is how we will save our country. Allah